Yeah, just.
I don't know.
No, I can't do that.
I don't know. Well, it's actually looking a little bit more normal now than it did for a couple of days. Meetings. Where's our agenda?
That's close.
Yeah, my daughter did. My big old thing.
Down?
This isn't
Ah.
even a note, this is like when I saw.
Okay, there you go.
These things in my classes.
I know.
You have to read it.
I got new glasses. They go down farther than At least I can see out of them. The other was getting kind of, one of those
See the
scratches
cold.
or-
The golf tournament.
That, that's a city, they still gonna hold their rules, golf and people up there.
Yeah,
It just wouldn't work.
yeah. Because it's a huge crowd that comes to that, isn't it?
Yeah, there's 101 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
You got your concrete work done?
Only one person
Rick
in
Gage,
that building at a time.
You said you built a nice
Yeah, the
deck.
kids
You
and
made a nice
Oh.
deck.
And then
So you built
if
a
you're
big shed.
not related,
I'm gonna put a
you
shed
have to
on
have a
the
truck
attic.
by yourself.
The shed's not as big as
Oh,
the pad,
sure.
it has to be a lot bigger.
But you need
Oh.
100 cars.
I'm gonna have some room on the side, I can,
Crazy.
my truck, my ladder.
I know.
They do like a 12-liter one, I thought.
You ready? Okay.
I buy it.
Okay, I'll call this regular board meeting to order, and the first thing we're gonna do is Courtney is going to lead us in the pledge.
Please join me in the pledge. Ready, begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome, the first item of business besides the welcome everybody. Approve and amend the agenda, and, is there an addenda on that? I didn't see. There is not, so, do you have a motion?
I move that we approve the agenda.
A second?
Second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on, the approval of the minutes. We have an executive session, student discipline on April 9th. A special meeting, RE COVID-19, that was on April 14th. A regular board meeting on April 21st, and then a special meeting for action and executive session, RE personnel matters, that was on April 24th. Is there a motion?
I move we approve the minutes as read or
Oh.
posted.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to consent agenda, that's the, to authorize payment of claims, payment of claims. It's not working yet. Approve supplemental financial information, approve human resource activity, and approve the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I have moved that we approve the consent agenda as read.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on, time for public comment, and I do have one. This is an item that's not on the agenda, Ann Stringfellow Brookman.
Yes, that's me. Hello?
It's hard to put that on the back of a jersey, isn't it? Okay,
So do I
anywhere.
introduce myself to you, or?
You're welcome to sit there in front of the microphone.
Okay, great, thank you. So I'm a volunteer with a group, a local group, that's part of a national organization called Moms Demand Action. And we are trying to organize a Be Smart campaign, which is a campaign to encourage responsible gun storage. So we have a handout, actually. My friend Terry is actually the president of the group. And if you'd like, I can give you, is it okay? Would you like me to
I'll take
pass?
one for the record too, if you have it.
Okay. So, there are over 4 million American households that have guns in the home that are loaded and unlocked. And we are trying to be a force for information to help parents to store their guns unloaded and in a safe place that's locked away so that children, young adults can't in the house, who are living in the house, can't access them easily. And so what we would like, what our hope is to get information out to the parents of District 25 children. And we are hoping to do that through perhaps a flyer that we could include in end-of-the-year packets that might be going out. And in the fall, we'd like to talk to school PTA-type groups, do presentations for individual schools, parents, maybe a back-to-school night, that kind of thing, to just give parents information about ways that they need to responsibly store their firearms. So that's why I'm here, is to hope for permission to be able to do that and information about who to contact and how we would arrange that whole thing.
Want to handle that, Doug?
You bet, absolutely.
Okay.
We will have your information here on your request to speak, and Mrs. Courtney Fisher will be in contact with you.
Okay.
I don't know about the end of the year packets. I think a majority of that distribution had taken place yesterday.
Uh-huh.
But we could help you perhaps with some social media and then look at next year.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
it didn't even necessarily need to be something physical, but we were hoping we would catch you before the end of the year packets went out. But if it's too late for that, maybe a digital, like you say, maybe through social media, or do you have like a site that parents can access over the summer that we might be able to post on?
Just the website. So I'll have Mrs. Fisher get in touch with you.
Okay,
Yeah, and she is in the group here. She's standing in the back.
okay, great.
Okay, all right.
All right, thank
Great,
you.
thank
I
you.
appreciate the time.
Okay, Courtney, would you like to come up, reports, media report, and community relations update?
These new times. Good morning, board. So today I just had a couple things I wanted to share with you. Some activity that's going on in terms of media and community relations. We do have, we developed in coordination with Mrs. Craney and Mrs. Pettit some parent and student surveys. We'll also be doing a staff survey that Lori and Sue are working on. But the parent and student survey is ready to go, and so that will be distributed this afternoon through Infinite Campus, and it's really just to get a snapshot of where people are, some things that we can learn about our remote learning, so that as we plan for the summer, different scenarios moving forward for the fall school year, we can plan accordingly based on the feedback that we get. So look forward to that, and I can share a link with that so you can see the questions that are included on that survey. And then the other thing I wanted to share with you today is some of our preliminary discussions regarding some concerns we have about planning for the Festival of Trees 2020. It seems kind of funny that we are planning for Christmas already, but truth be told, I usually start planning for festival in April. I've usually got all of the major, sorry, this is so hot. I've usually got all the major sponsorships already secure for the festival. And just based on the current climate and everything going on with the economic shutdown, I haven't done any of that yet. One, out of sensitivity to where our local businesses are. Two, just, we have a whole host of other priorities that we've really had to address in terms of importance. So we will be meeting as an Ed Foundation and having a retreat on June 10th where we'll be discussing some of these current concerns, but I wanted to bring them to your attention today just so that you would know kind of what that conversation is focused on. You can either ask me questions today or you can approach me individually with any of your questions or concerns that I can take back to the Ed Foundation of things that we really need to be considering as we look forward to November of 2020. So some of the things that are top of my mind right now and looking forward to that are the uncertainty of what's coming in the fall. With projections about a resurgence in the fall, I just, that's really kind of weighing heavily on my mind in terms of, where we'll be at in stages of reopening or closing back up, and specifically regarding limitations on mass gatherings. Right now we're still only at 10, hoping to reopen to 50, and then towards the end of the summer, 250, but we have much more large gatherings than that at the festival, so that's definitely top of mind on our list of concerns. Our first priority, obviously, is the safety of our staff, of our guests, and of our volunteers, many of whom fall in within that vulnerable category. So we really want to be mindful as we plan to take those concerns into consideration. And then, it takes an inordinate amount of time and preparation for the festival. So whatever we decide, I want to make sure that we have time to accommodate that planning. It becomes, basically my full-time job from really now through the end of the summer into the fall year. And the festival thrives on the support of local businesses. And as we know, our small local businesses have been hit really, really hard with this shutdown. And so whatever we decide, we want to be mindful of where those local businesses are at in terms of their ability to support something like this. One of my other concerns is that as we move forward, many of the community events that have been scheduled for the spring and the summer are being pushed into the fall. So that means that we have an increase in competition for funding with those events being pushed back. And yeah, that's basically where we're at right now. So just wanted to bring those concerns to your attention now so that they would be on your mind. So when we make a decision, you won't be in the dark. Any questions now?
Yes. How soon do you want to have a decision made?
We'll make a decision on June 10th from the Ed Foundation. I'm going to do a survey prior to that so that I can get people's feedback, on a kind of without pressure, their responses to say how our board feels about moving forward with it. Do we do something that's more scaled back? Do we, I would hate to put all this planning in place and then come October we have to cancel. So it just, lots of things to take into consideration as we move forward.
Is there some obligation with the whole Festival of Trees? I don't know exactly if it's a corporation or what, but is there some obligation to have it every year or lose it?
No.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
For curriculum, Chuck Orr, unit development.
Good morning. Just a couple of quick items today. Wanted to let you know that we do have unit development scheduled. June 1st through the 4th, we'll have high school integrated math teachers in. June 8th and 9th will be for secondary science. June 9th and 10th for elementary gifted and talented, and June 10 and 11 for secondary social studies. This year we'll be meeting up at the Gateway Professional Learning Center, and our teachers will be meeting in small groups ranging from 4 people to the largest group will be 8, and they're all scheduled in separate rooms. Participants have been encouraged to wear masks and maintain the appropriate social distance from one another. And at no time will we pull the whole group together for any large group meetings. This will be well within the guidelines of the governor's Stage 3 reopening. So this will be the first time that our high school math teachers will participate in developing units in the current form that we use, since they've implemented integrated math 3 years ago. So, and that was really at their request. They wanted to get together and develop learning intentions and success criteria for their curriculum. The work of secondary science, social studies, and elementary GATE will really just be a refinement of work that they engaged in last summer. So just wanted to update you on that. Moving then to item B, you have a memo included in your packet requesting that you maintain the college entrance exam requirement for the class of 2021. Originally, we understood the requirement was waived for this year's seniors and juniors. However, while it was waived for this year's seniors, the state board only waived the spring administration of the SAT to our juniors, not the requirement itself. The state has scheduled an SAT school day administration for this next fall, October 14th. And the rule may ultimately be waived, but if that did occur, it likely would not happen until after October 14th, which is after that administration of the SAT. So consequently, you're being asked today to maintain the requirement for the class of 2021 unless we're otherwise directed by the state board. Do you have any questions about that?
You know, I think my biggest concern there is, will it be ready to take the test? You know, with
Right.
missing a whole trimester. You
Yeah.
know, I have concerns about how fair that is to them, making them take that test, even though we've been doing online.
Right.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
I don't believe so.
The good thing,
That's my big question.
right. The good thing about it is, you know, many kids will need that for college entrance and it's paid for by the state. So, you know, I certainly understand your concern about kids being ready.
Well, and my guess is if they see that they're doing poorly or something on it, they need
Right.
to look at that.
And there would be an opportunity to retake that test, right, Mr. Orr?
Yes,
It sounded like there was less emphasis on that SAT now for entrance into college.
yeah, there will
So
be for
I
the,
think that would make a difference.
yeah. All right.
Can you
Thank-
tell us about the Gateway Center? Me,
Yes.
is
It-
it set up for you? You ready to go? You happy with it?
Oh, yes, I'm really happy with it. It's a wonderful facility. We had contemplated getting all of you up there to take a look at it this spring, but had actually decided to wait. There's one classroom that's still in use. Highland High School has a math classroom in there. And when we're done with unit development, our maintenance department is going to remodel that room, kind of open it up a little bit more and it'll be a really nice sized training space. But in the meantime, downstairs in the basement, we have several offices for some of our special education staff and then our instructional consultants. We have 2 training rooms downstairs currently. On the main level, as you come into the building, we have a small training space down at the end of the hall. And then at unit development, we intend to use Mr. White's classroom to put one of our unit development teams in there. So I hope that we can get the board up there this next fall after that room has been remodeled so that you can take a look at it. It's a really, really nice facility.
I didn't even know there was a downstairs, so.
Walkout basement.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
I thought Doug would take it over, his office up there. That's
there you go.
beautiful in the summer.
It's pretty
Over
nice.
the
The
fairway.
views of the golf course and, yeah, it's really nice. So, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, who's up next? Extended school year. Yeah, that's you. All right, there it is.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I thought it would be appropriate for me to come before the board to share with you our extended school year plan, given the fact that it will be our first experience with having kids back in our building, right? So we plan on having a face-to-face extended school year program, which begins June 9th, runs through July 9th, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, for an instructional week of about 9 hours, 15 days. We have a total of 45 hours of instruction. I'm putting together a plan to send out to all of our parents to explain and outline our health and safety measures. But in a nutshell, we'll have approximately 50 students divided across 5 classrooms, which will decrease the number of students per classroom down to a reasonably socially distant number of 10, roughly. We've got 5 teachers and 12 paras that have decided to come on and work for us this summer. And of course, given the unique nature of the ESY program, we do a combination of door-to-door busing for our students. Now, bear in mind that our extended school year students are students with more moderate to severe disabilities who've met criteria for such instruction based upon the belief that not having some continuous instruction would be detrimental to the growth in their IEP areas. So it's not a summer camp. It does have a bit of a summer camp feel to it, but it is instructionally relevant, that information that these students will be receiving. So our kids who will be receiving or will be getting door-to-door transportation, we will do a non-contact temperature check at the bus. We'll have a bus aide on each of our buses, and that bus aide then will do a non-contact temperature infrared, provided the temperature isn't above 100.4 degrees, which is the cutoff set forth by the CDC. That student will enter the bus. Parents will be asked to walk their child to the bus to answer a few simple health-related questions, and we've heard all of these questions, but quickly it said, does your child have a fever, shortness of breath? Does your child exhibit any other illnesses? And has your child been in contact with a known or perceived case of COVID-19? Provided all those health questions are marked affirmatively, the student gets on the bus, and we take this student to Green Acres, is where we'll have the program this summer. Obviously, should any of those wellness criteria not be met, the child will not be able to attend. And should the child present with any of those symptoms after arrival, the parent will be notified and the child will be sent home until symptom-free. For the kids who are being transported to and from ESY by their parents, we'll meet that person at the curbside. Staff member will meet that family at the car. The staff member, of course, will be wearing a mask and will have, be sanitized and so forth. We'll go through that daily wellness check question and conduct the infrared temperature check at the door. And then provided that all is good, we'll escort the child in. Doors will be locked. Parents will be discouraged from entering building for any reason. Not sure if we can actually say they can't come in, but they'll be strongly discouraged from coming in for whatever reason, unless it's an emergency. Our general precautionary measures, of course, will include lots of hand washing and hygiene instruction. In fact, we'll probably have that as part of one of our curriculum components, is making sure these kids understand the importance of hand washing, sanitary kinds of things, coughing into your elbow, those kinds of things. Classes will be limited to 10 students. Staff in masks when working in close proximity to students. We'll encourage student masks. My guess is that most of these kids won't keep a mask on, and maybe some will, maybe some won't. But my experience with this particular population is they're not prone to doing that. But they'll certainly have the option to wear masks and gloves. Parents will be, of course, asked to provide a mask for their child should they want to wear a mask each day. And that's kind of it in a nutshell. I'm pleased that this is an all-time high number of students that we've had referred for extended school year and subsequently met the eligibility criteria. I think, there's lots of concern how the child's learning has been since we've been in soft closure, so there's kind of a heightened awareness, of course. So I'm anxious to see how this will go. And I'm figuring we won't have real big problems as long as we can stay close to this safety measure. And social distance on the bus will probably add 1, maybe 2 buses, so the kids can be further apart on the bus. Like I said, roughly 50 students that we've got registered thus far, and probably 40 of them will be riding the bus. The remaining 10 will be transported by their parent. So, just a quick rundown on
Mr.
that.
Minor, could you talk a little bit about your consultation with public health on this plan?
Yes, right. As we've kind of gotten more information and enrolled forward this a little bit, I've had the opportunity to contact Southeastern Idaho District Health Authority, Maggie Mann, and unbeknownst to her, she was unaware of the time that a health plan or a COVID guideline plan is necessary for the reopening of such a program. And as we've talked, she assures me that it does not have to be approved by the Southeast Idaho District Health Authority. They're willing, and I'll send this to her after we answer any questions and, of course, get your approval. I'll send this plan to her. But she informed me that the only plans that are being scrutinized, so to speak, are those establishments that serve food. So there isn't some kind of approval process that we need to go to. Obviously, we'll send this off to her so she knows and is aware of what we're doing in meeting the guidelines set forth by the State Board of Education here a month or so ago. But I was quite surprised that there wasn't more red tape and hoops to jump through. But this is, as I've talked to some of my fellow special ed directors in the region here, this is kind of the standard plan that folks are doing around this area. So I think we won't have any trouble, even if it were to be approved, which it isn't. I think she will smile favorably on this. Any questions I can add? No. Okay. Well, we'll probably have our song and dance number again towards the end of ESY. I'll make sure you get an invitation.
That was fun. You're going to allow the parents in for that?
Well, I don't know. That's then, right? Yeah. Mhm. You know, that's all right on the tail end of the governor's phase 4, where they're allowing up to 50 folks to congregate at one time in one spot. So I guess we'll see what that looks like at the time. It isn't part of the agenda. It isn't part of
It
what
is a
we've been.
big room.
It is a big
It's
room, right?
And just everyone around the outside of the room. And
Sure, we can socially distant. I'm guessing we can do that quite well. So that's our hope, to do that again, yeah, because that seems to be kind of a fun thing for the kids.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Lori, Kathy, you coming up too? Great.
Let Kathy go first with. All right. Good morning. Thank you for letting me be present here today. Just wanted to give a brief update on Head Start services and share some feedback that we've had from our parents. So we're doing, as the district, we have some live time with children and do Google Classroom for those families that have internet capability. For those families that do not, they get weekly education packets and phone calls from the staff. So one of the comments that a family reported was that their day starts in the morning when the Head Start bus driver drops off breakfast and lunch for his 7 kids. So this was a family that wasn't able to get out to a park, so this service has been greatly appreciated. And then his 3- and 4-year-old boys, he has 2 in the program, they get onto the computer and get into Google Classroom, and that's where their teacher greets them and begins lessons for the days. So we have one teacher who actually has a lesson every day, twice a day with the kids, a morning and then an afternoon session, and covering every single content area from math to literacy to science to cooking to taking her computer outdoors and doing gross motor activities with the kids. So it's been very impressive to see what the staff have been able to do in this unusual times. We also, as you know, provide a lot of social services for our families too. One of the things that we are seeing, because we have a fairly significant number of parents who work outside the home, they typically are employed in those fields where they've been laid off. So our advocates have been spending time helping get them connected to get unemployment compensation so that they can make it through this time. They've also been working to get them connected to other community agencies to help them with the cost of their utilities. So I'm really proud of the work that they're doing, staying really on top of it with the families. Families minimally get a weekly contact. Some of our families have asked if it can be more, and of course we do that for them. So we're, we made it happen. Of course, now that this is the last week of school for us, our last day is Friday, staff are feeling it's a bit unusual and some concern with how the families will fare over the summer, but hopefully well. The other update for you is we are in the process of taking applications for next year, and that process is going slowly. Right now, families are not thinking about enrolling their children into preschool. Our advocates are taking the applications over the phone. We do not do any face-to-face or have individuals come into the building, but we're right now at about 90 completed applications, of which 46 are the re-enrollees, the 3-year-olds that re-enroll then into a 4-year-old classroom. So we are more than likely going to continue taking applications throughout the summer, knowing that more than the families with the greatest needs are the ones that we're going to see at the very last moment. So we're working as best as we can to get out and reach families and get those applications taken. The biggest challenge is we have to have that physical documentation to verify that they're income eligible. So we're trying to, again, brainstorm ways that we can get that from families. Then before you had sent out, it's been a busy time for Head Start. So there was the COLA and Quality Improvement Grant application, which went in on Friday, and the total funding for $102,192. It was looking at any increase for salary fringe or help to offset other higher operating costs for federal year 20. The thing with the quality improvement that we were really excited about was to look at enhancing our trauma-informed approach to services. This past year, we had a very difficult time finding, and it was just a part-time mental health position. So too few hours for someone who is working full-time in the field in the community, or too many hours, but then too few hours for someone who wanted something part-time. So we weren't able to secure a mental health person as we typically have been. We've noted that while the needs increased, the number of agencies and providers has not. So to be more competitive, we're proposing to actually create a staff position so that we'll have a mental health consultant present and make it a full-time position with benefits, and hopefully we'll be able to attract someone so that this coming year we'll be in better shape. As part of the CARES Act, Head Start programs were included, and that was funding, one-time funding, in order to restart programs. Some of the early Head Start programs are year-round, so they will be starting this summer, not us, but others in the community, so that we can learn from them about how well reopening centers went for them and what practices they put into place. Our program, not only are we planning for a typical opening for this fall, but we're also planning a contingency opening if we need to modify it. So the funding is there to help offset any additional cost, such as if we needed to have PPE equipment, if we needed to see about securing more electronic for families to be able to participate if they're again at home. So that went in on Friday as well. And then we also did the transfer request from federal year 19, our current year, to federal year 20 for designating funds that will go towards the new facilities. So that one also went in. Because of the situation, the Office of Head Start has approved many different federal waivers. So in this case, there is no separate waiver request or board approval required for the waiver for the funds for the COLA, and no waiver request or board approval is required for the one-time grant. The transfer fund that was approved earlier in March, and so today the only thing for consideration is approval of, the COLA and quality improvement grant. Any questions?
I just had a question on your transfer.
Mm-hmm.
That comes from the district, and is that insurance funded?
This is strictly federal Head Start dollars.
Federal Head Start?
Yes, yes, that only involves the federal Head Start dollars.
Money from federal Head Start than for your module.
Right, it's mostly just same funding source, just transferring it from one year to the next.
Yeah, I should have asked that before,
Mm-hmm,
What fund did that actually come from?
yeah. Okay.
Mrs. Graney, Mrs. Bray, if you would talk a little bit about, the exploration of permanent fixture versus modules, so the board will have an update on that too. That'd be wonderful.
Sure. Ms. Bray knows more about that. So basically, they're getting ready to remove that module that is burned, but we had to slow down the process there because of the federal interest that Head Start had in that, and so all of the paperwork that goes along with anything that is of federal interest. So I would assume we should be getting some approval right away that they can go and be taking the burned module out of there within, I don't know. Who knows? We'll not make any guesses on that. The other thing is that it's a very slow process to replace this. So you would have thought that, well, they burn down, you take them out, you get some new ones in, replace them there. But you'll see we had carryover money that we had to go and request to be moved over. We have to explore all options in order to make a decision. So you weigh all of that out. So we've had an architect draw up some plans, just some sketches there, and make some cost if we would do a permanent structure there and add some classrooms there, expand that office building, make it more ADA compliant. So we have that. We have the modules the cost for modules, we had to get those in there. We have to look at other properties within the area and get costs for those and what it would cost if we upgraded them in order to inform the decision on which route we would take. So we're farther down the road than we were a month ago, but it is still, we're hoping that we can have some decisions made here very shortly on which route to go. But there are some significant differences in cost between a permanent structure and, if we added modules into that building. Boy, I thought it'd be ready to go, but it is a time-consuming thing. Thank you, Ms. Brigg. Any other questions while Ms.
It sounded
Bray's here?
like it was going to be easy when we talked to those folks.
No, they tried to make it sound easy. Well, you just fill in this form, well, it's kind of like, where is that form?
Yeah.
There's check boxes and check boxes. Paul sat there, Mr. Vitale sat there with us when the regional office came and talked about this right before COVID, so, yep. We're moving, but
Thank you.
all righty. You'll see in your packet, the food bank, we're still distributing food backpacks. Our CRWs are diligent about doing that and very committed to that. So you'll see those numbers there. We did get another shipment for May, so those will be distributed out also. And then elementary distance learning update. Ms. Bray updated you on Head Start, some of the things going along with Head Start. It's hard to believe that this is week 7 of our distance learning. You could probably track it and say we hit this, there was a peak there where boy, people were more excited about it, our learners were more excited about distance learning, and it's waning just a bit. The number of packets that are being picked up are fewer, and so the assignments coming back in seem to be dropping off a bit, but I did have to remind principals today that we would have taken ISAT, this would have been after ISAT. You know, the weather starts to turn, this is the time of the year that, you know, when that does happen, but we are seeing that as, that's going on. There have been some wonderful things, just like Ms. Bray said there, with teachers, reaching out to their learners, providing these online. Some of them have just found some excellent ways to connect with their students, whether it's through Google Meet or all kinds of different, they use Seesaw, and there's just all kinds of different ways that they're reaching out to their learners. Some of the things we talked about assessment of learning and trying to get feedback on where students are, and today when I had our principals meeting, some of the principals talked about how kindergarten, the paraprofessionals and the kindergarten teachers were doing online assessments. They'd show them letters and the students would have to identify the letters, and they said it would take about 30 minutes, and they would do these 30-minute one-on-one with their kindergarten students to really assess where they're learning. And they from these principals, they said that they were very pleased with how well the learners were doing so on the assessments that they were given. So that was good feedback.
I did see a teacher yesterday at the dollar store, and she had picked up like 25 to 30 helium smiley face balloons for each of her students, and I know that things like that are going on all across the district, that they're doing things for their students. And I talked to some teachers who were telling me that in the high schools, they get students calling them at 10:30 at night all the time. They just want to chat or visit, so it was pretty interesting hearing the comments I've been hearing,
I know that I only get glimpses of what is all going on, but there are things in every building that are just phenomenal, of ways that we've reached out for our learners. Mrs. Garza was telling about next week they're going to set up the sign gypsy kind of, things, and then the parents can come by and take pictures by the school with the, congratulations fifth graders, so as their fifth graders get ready to move on. So they're doing that. Some of them are going to homes, just like you were saying, and putting little signs in their yards, and I've seen that. Washington did that with their learners. Did you? Yeah, did that with their learners. And so there's just a ton of different ideas out there and ways that they've reached out. There'll be parades. There'll be parades where they'll be standing out, the teachers, staff members will be standing out social distancing at the schools, and the learners can go by and, wave at the teachers, scavenger hunts, and all kinds of different things that they've done to still keep connecting, with their learners. They're very, the teachers are missing their students, and I know that the students are missing their teachers. It's their connection, and and it's
And their peers.
and their peers.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think one of the other things that I would comment on, I received a phone call from someone in the community who has, well, they're not direct grandkids, but anyway, they've come here from another place, and you don't really think about in this time,
Yeah.
students still coming into the school district. But the comments from this grandparent, sort of, are that the kids have felt so welcomed,
Oh, good.
and that the teachers are doing an incredible job of helping them be successful in school, even in a new, it's all new for them. And I think it's not something I would have thought about necessarily till this phone call came, but just they were passing on to me for the district what a tremendous job you've been doing.
Good. That's great to hear. I know that we had some learners that would move to, Oregon and Washington, I know in particular, and then they couldn't enroll in the schools there yet. We did enroll students. We enrolled them in classes, and then we just wrapped them in just like we would others, So I do feel that was the right thing, so that's good feedback for us. And Mrs. Pettit will be talking also about PLCs, and so we need to get a lot of information before everybody scatters and kind of forgets exactly what was going on. We're going to have our teachers meet in PLCs and really talk about what's working and why did it work and what didn't work and why didn't it work. And, you know, we've learned a lot of new lessons, and so which of these lessons do we need to carry forth? Because we don't want to, it'd be easy to just step back in and then, you know, do like we've been doing for lots of years, but we have definitely learned some things that are very beneficial to our learners and their engagement, and so it's making sure that we are there to support them as they move on. So hopefully those will be great, I'm sure that they will be great discussions that they have in PLCs, and then principals will be bringing that information to us so that we can be delving through and saying, you know, this is what we've learned from it. These are the things that we know work, these didn't, and we won't repeat some of the mistakes, and we'll be able to capitalize on those gains that we have there. And also the teachers, we're asking them to do a survey, and it'll say how many packets did you distribute, how many students weren't able to get online. You know, they'll know at this point, because we kind of make these ballpark figures, and it'll be good for the teachers know they're contacting them every week, and they know the troubles that they've had with, you know, any that have not been able to get online. So we'll try to capitalize that, and we'll share it with you, that information from the teachers, so that we can see, you know, what has been working, what platforms are they using, that sort of thing. All righty.
Okay. You pretty much say ditto for secondary for
Let's try and not to.
how they're, I know you're fine. Yeah, a lot of the same feedback from our teachers. They're working all hours of the day, all hours of the night, getting kids finished. And last week or so, interest has been waning, and so they're stepping up their gentle nagging. Finish strong, get this done. So spoke with a couple of seniors yesterday that were, do I really have to finish that class? Well, do you want to go to summer school? No, finish the class. So
I know I've seen from parents too on social media, a lot of questions about, well, what does this mean, this pass fail?
Mhm.
What are, you know, and all these questions now are all of a sudden coming up that I could tell. So obviously their child needs to be doing a little bit more here.
Yep.
You know.
So yeah, we've had lots of phone calls about that, and
Yeah,
it's,
so.
put some people's minds at ease, and others, we've had to tell them, you know, why we're doing this and why we aren't just giving the grades. It's an unfair situation at the moment, and we need to level the playing field as best we can. So we're going with that. Graduation plans, ready or not, next week. Have you figured that out yet? It's next week.
Now, is New Horizon not the
Thursday.
same day?
It's on Thursday evening. And then Pocatello, Highland, Century are on Friday. Mhm. So we completed senior pictures yesterday. I am thoroughly sandblasted and exfoliated from standing in the wind and the sand.
Where did you do those?
We did them at the Wellness Complex,
Because I was up there and I kept seeing
and
all these.
caps and gowns flying through the air.
Did you do it in the buses?
So where the buses were parked, Deloitte Stewart had wrapped one of those pavilions in plastic and zip ties and ratchet straps and whatever else we could find to keep the plastic from blowing in. And they had set up an external outside studio there. And so the kids entered in there and had their pictures taken there.
Feet at 6 o'clock at night.
6 o'clock at night was loads of fun. I was up there at that time and trying to gather up caps and gowns and get them to my car, holding them like this and hoping they didn't blow away. But it went very, very well. The kids were, they were good about respecting social distances. Periodically, you know, you walk by, I know they're friends, but you need to be, and they were very respectful about moving apart. So it went very well. We were, it was kind of white knuckle nail biting on Wednesday last week when they called and said, oh, by the way, your cap and gowns won't be here until the 22nd. And for two of our schools, we went, no, we need them by this Friday. And as of Wednesday evening at 9 o'clock at night, they finally said, yeah, we overnight express today. They'll be in your buildings Saturday afternoon or Friday afternoon, Saturday morning at the latest. So Highland and Century passed out gowns and caps on Saturday, most of the day for their seniors, and then brought up the ones that didn't pick them up to the wellness complex yesterday. So a little nail biting because we need to get those pictures done so that we can get the banners printed and back to us in time. So they are off to the printers and they should be back shortly. So as soon as those get back in, we'll let you know and we'll go from there. We did get our honors, highest honors, high honors, and highest honors, and our STEM magnets for the sides of the cars. Those are all printed and ready to be distributed. And when we distribute the banners, we'll distribute those magnets as well. We have a meeting later today about finalizing graduation plans and getting just placements for things at each school so we know where things are going to be and organize that with our other parties that are helping with that. So my understanding is that the board would like to be handing those diploma covers to the seniors. Is that everybody want to do that? Do you want to sit? It's a matter of taking steps off a curb and walking to a car. So if that's something you would like to do, if you'll let me know, we would love it. Everybody wants to do that, then we'll just set it up so that you, as close as we possibly can get you.
I was just gonna frisbee him.
I know. Well, the seniors would like pictures of somebody handing them their diploma cover. And so there is going to be somebody there taking pictures of whoever's handing that diploma cover. So that was an important thing for them. It's like,
Are you
we can
pretty
do that.
active then, Jen?
So.
I have been practicing at home.
So, we will be hopefully finalizing where to park your cars, because that turnaround time from one to the next will be fairly quick. I've talked with Highland and and Century, and they will have their golf carts ready, so wherever we do park you, we'll put you in a golf cart and get you to wherever you need to be, so. But
VIP.
it's, we thought large streamers or giant ears on the top, no. So we're gonna try and make it as easy as we can for you guys to get to where you need to be, but the timeline may be fairly tight, so.
Can we get copies of where these are taking place?
Yes, as soon as they are finalized, we will be more than happy to, that's what the goal is this afternoon, to work on that kind of stuff.
Do you have
Yeah.
numbers? I mean, one of the numbers that always intrigues me is New Horizon.
How many? Should be over 100.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of depends on how they're finishing out this last block, because they're still in their block. And so it started out 3 weeks ago. It should have been about 120-ish, but we think a few of them have,
Peeled off.
yeah. So it should be right around 100 though.
So are we gonna have masks and gloves then?
I have masks for all of you in school colors. I can find some gloves for you also, yes. So, yeah, the school colors and the gloves, no, but I do have masks for you also.
I'm
Working
not
on
wearing
that one.
gloves.
You don't want to wear gloves? You know what, I'm gonna hand them to you, and whatever you do with them, I don't care, but,
I'm not wearing gloves.
you're good.
I mean, I just,
Nope, you're fine. I will,
And some of us can peel off early and go to another.
and that's what we figured. If we,
Yes.
like I said, the hope is that we tell people, like, Pokey starts at noon. If you are in line by 1 o'clock, we can read your name. If you're not in line by 1 o'clock, you take your chances on that one.
Yeah.
Because by 1:30, we need some of you to peel off and head up to Highland and be ready to start at 3, and then the rest can join. I mean, that's, and then Highland starts at 3, and so if you're in line by, 4 o'clock, for sure your name will be read. If after that, it's gonna be, because we need to get you guys over to Century. So,
Something.
I know, it's gonna be an adventure.
I will say, thank goodness Pocatello's not bigger than it is. I
Yes.
mean, it could be like Salt Lake, where you
Yes,
couldn't get there. So.
where we're gonna send a couple of you to this school and a couple of you to that school, and and just, so.
and I was reading the dress guidelines and things. I know you encourage them to wear their cap and gowns. But, so I'm really wondering what I'm gonna see.
I know. So let's get on with that one.
This time, though.
So,
Because
Yeah, well,
so the times are 12, 3, and 6?
12, 3, and 6,
Okay.
yes.
And what time is New Horizon?
6 o'clock on the
The night before?
28th?
28th, yeah. So,
So we need to be, if it's 6 o'clock, do we need to be there a half hour early, or?
sure.
For-
It may be here, and we'll get you a golf cart and take you over to New Horizons. So, it may be easier to park here than it will be to park over there.
When we park in that storage area.
So, that's, like I said, hopefully the finalization. We were supposed to have this meeting at 8 o'clock this morning, and we had another meeting that got piled on top of it, so it got moved to this afternoon. So I was hoping to have all those answers for you. All right, dress code policy, we're hoping to take some action on a portion of our policies to be just waived for this graduation celebration with everything else that's going on. Cap and gowns, yes. Clothing must be appropriate, yes. They did ask if this year they could put something on their mortar board, and I said yes before I even checked the policy. So with everything else going on, for them to decorate their mortar board for this year,
And they're gonna be inside their.
and they're gonna be inside their car,
Not gonna see
and
them.
so I said, yes.
Well,
But to,
it's not like when you're at
correct,
Holt and people are looking down on what's on top
Correct.
of your head.
Yep.
Where some of them, I've seen in the past.
oh, yes,
where some are-
absolutely, some inappropriate, yes, yeah. So, and they've been told if anything is inappropriate on their caps and we can see it, it's coming off, so they just can't wear them. But if you would, like I said, work on, not postponing, waiving the policy for the graduation dress code for this year, and this year only, so. And I think that's the end of my stuff. Do you have any questions about?
Just good luck to you.
I know. It's coming very quickly, and we've had an awful lot of help, and Courtney has been a godsend just with organizing all of this stuff, so.
And I do think it was very nice of Mr. Stewart to
Oh, phenomenal. In fact, he's probably just finished taking, because we had a couple of kids that had to work all day yesterday, called in a panic, and he said, if you can get to my shop by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, I will take your picture, we will get you done, and so he has done above and beyond what anybody could do.
It's nice to see everybody's face, like, live. And I miss you guys in discipline, not really, but I do. Good morning. So I just wanted to have a couple announcements with athletics. First off, we did have a spring academic state championships announced today. We have the Century High School softball team at a 3.870. They were 2 students off from a 4.0, so that was pretty cool. And then the Pocatello girls golf team, and they were 1 student off from a 4.0. So kudos to our schools and doing great things. I think each one of them got a couple games in before all of this settled in. Also, I wanted to bring to light some of the things that we've been doing following the governor's rebound stages and working with athletic directors throughout the state on what summer is going to look like. And we did a proposal of stages. I don't know what you guys are looking at now, but I'm going to look at this one first, which is kind of a calendar dates.
Yeah, we have that.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a PowerPoint image, I think.
Yeah, I
or-
read it at home, but I can't swear.
Oh, it's a PDF, sorry.
Yeah, it's there. It's athletic timeline.
So we definitely were erring on the side of caution and being proactive on making sure that our goal was to really work towards having fall sports. We're optimistic at the moment, but we put it into the same stages similar to the governor. In May, right now, all of my coaches have submitted proposals of what their camps, their open gyms, their clinics, their skills, and so forth. I gave them guidelines of I know if I just said, hey, make sure you're doing all of this, the likability of them reading it would be very slim. So I actually said, here's guidelines. I want you to actually create what you're going to do in each of your open gyms in all the different stages. So in the first stages from the 1st of June to June 12th, basically working with just 10 students at a time, not sharing balls, making sure that they each bring their own water bottle, cleaning the balls afterwards, and so forth. So each coach had submitted a proposal of what that looked like, and the coaches did an amazing job. Here's just some examples of what they're going to voice. No high fives, no, gatherings afterwards and so forth, even to where I have like a map of where they're going to be doing their field conditioning and so forth. So they put a lot of thought into this. So I'm very confident. My coaches are very supportive on, our goal to be ready for this fall, but to introduce this into stages in baby steps. So the first part of June, basically getting together with just our teams, inner teams, and then the second part of June, they will be able to allow some scrimmaging action going on, assuming that the state is continuing through the phases. And then in July, open it up to camps and clinics for some little kids and tournaments for them to attend. I know in Boise area, they've kind of closed it, so they're not leaving the Boise area. So most of the tournaments and activities that we're doing are in Southeast Idaho. We've limited it into that June 13th through the 26th to only Southeast Idaho. Again, just trying to really baby step on what this looks like when they roll it out.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
It came with the the recommendations from the state on participation timeline and guidelines. And in that it said, and I was a little confused by this, because it says May 30th to June 12th. It gives a guideline, but then the next thing says July, so I wondered, well, what happens from June 12th to
It's
June?
at the bottom.
Gotta go down.
Oh, is that at the?
Sorry, might have been confusing. This is kind of a timeline with the going from top to bottom. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different kind of phases.
Okay, that's what I missed.
I
Sorry.
had another question.
Yes.
It comes.
I was trying to be, clear there, Jackie. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay, because then
Go ahead.
when I went to camps,
Right,
and some were starting in June, and, and up here it's
right.
camps in July.
And I'll explain that. The camps in June are the inner camps, so it's just the team. So basically, they get ready and go over offense and defense, yeah.
Yeah, it just didn't.
I made them word that as inner so that we could understand that. Go ahead, Janie.
This is coming out of my church background, but
Mhm.
they're telling us that there can be no choral singing in church. And what that's about is taking a deeper breath and then, as you expel it. So I'm thinking about these kids yelling and, how do you limit that? So that, because that's another place of exposure.
Right. And I think part of that, and IHSAA and NHSA come up with some guidelines, and there are different levels. Like, I know, in the District 6, they're a little bit more lenient, and we were a little bit tougher, and then Ada County even more, kind of the area and proactiveness. But there's all kinds of little things that I wanted them to think about with communicating, to high fives, to, even we don't exchange balls for the first 2 weeks. We definitely want to implement this in stages. That way we can watch and then we can react to what happens as we roll this out. But yeah, you're absolutely right. IHSAA has actually put some steering committees together for each sport. They've asked me to be on the volleyball steering committee on any possible alternatives if things don't, we're being optimistic, but we're also being proactive on, let's talk about every different situation possible, to moving the sport to different season, to only allowing varsity. I mean, there's nothing that we're not going to discuss. And so every sport is going to be discussed, and the fans and the traveling and the busing. So we're definitely on board with all of that. But I know for the mental health of our students and our coaches and our community, we definitely need to follow the governor's guidelines on the stages to try to open some things up. So we're going to watch it. We're going to watch it close, and my coaches are proactive, and they're doing a great job at being prepared.
Well, I did observe yesterday, I was up by the Wellness Center complex, and they They are doing team sports. Now I
The little, or the clubs?
the clubs.
Yeah.
It's the club sports, I guess it's not.
Yeah.
Club sports, I've noticed they have club sports out practicing.
Yeah.
Doing that.
So we're watching, and we're keeping a close eye on it. I know Bart's doing a great job trying to get my gyms ready, because I know, you know, with all of this going on, we wanted to do everything in June and July that we normally would do in April and May. And so they're doing a great job at trying to get those things ready for our kids, and then my coaches are doing a great job of being prepared. They've had the opportunity, they wrote, you know, a description out of what they're gonna do, and I was really proud of them, because rather than just giving them the guidelines, they created that themselves, so that was really nice. Any questions about how we're gonna try to roll this out this summer with our fingers crossed?
Just gonna have to adapt.
Yep. It's just gonna have to be, we gotta figure out what our new normal is and keep going with what we get presented. And also the last thing here is, because we are doing some clinics and camps and so forth, I had them resubmit some new dates and some new opportunities. So some of these, you know, were camps and so forth that you've already approved with new dates. I just had them put them all on one, just so that we don't have any confusions. So here's a list of all the camps and clinics that our different programs would like to get approved from the board. Any questions?
I think one of the academic champions, we talked about Century and also Pocatello. There was one for Highland as well.
Oh, did I miss Highland?
Yeah.
Oh, I
think-
did, boys track. Highland's gonna be so mad at me. So boys track, yes, 5A boys was a 3.769. Thank you for pointing that out.
You
I
bet.
missed that completely.
They all had one.
I
Yep.
think
Yeah.
One for
The
each.
newspaper had a little bit about.
On each one. Sorry about that.
We got it. Hey, Tanya,
Alright.
I do have one question on your, the summer camps.
Uh-huh.
We're showing a 6/1 date. Oh, okay, it's 2021. I answered my own
Yeah,
question before I
My
asked.
my Highland is really proactive. That's
Yeah,
next
right?
year,
Okay.
next summer. So assuming we're all on board,
Mhm. Yeah,
they would like to do that for next summer.
okay,
Yes.
super, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, it's good seeing everybody.
Good morning.
Morning, Bart.
I thought before we began that we wanted to make sure that Mrs. Craner has some Kleenex for the Idaho General Fund Revenue Report.
Well, I kinda heard you tell about that at the budget review, so.
Yeah.
about-
Well, it is what it is. I think that we are all aware that for the month of April, the revenue down at the state level was down significantly, $470 million, which is a sizable amount. Hopefully, there will be a little bit of a recovery over May and June, where the primary reason for that reduction, that significant reduction, is because they delayed taxes until June. So hopefully that will be made up a little bit, but we don't know where that will happen. The other part of that report is that sales tax collections still were not off that far, but that was for March, and April was when we really got into all this other business about closures and restaurants and all those different things. So more to come this next month, and we'll just watch this closely. I know the state's watching it very closely as well. The next item is the meals served in our parks, and we've been doing that since March now, I believe. And that chart's a little bit hard to read, I apologize for that, but you just kind of see some of the detail there. On average, we have been serving 3,300 meals per day since we started. Actually, that's 6,600 if you count breakfast and lunch as well.
You do have a typo there, don't you, on April?
A typo?
Well, it says 78,772.
I will look at that and
It's at
see.
the very bottom.
At the bottom in those little colors.
My copy is really super, super small.
Because it gives March at 5,169, in April it gives us 78,000.
Mrs. Crainer, I would venture to guess that's an accurate number.
Yeah, that's
Because
total.
we started March,
Yeah.
just a week.
No,
into
that is
March.
correct. That is correct.
1,000?
Yes, ma'am. We have served more meals in, since we've been doing this, than we did all of our food service program last summer.
So 4,000 a day, even at 20
Oh, a day,
days?
okay.
Yeah. yep,
Right.
Uh-huh.
So that
probably
is
80,000.
correct there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that is,
I get it now.
Mhm.
yeah, that is correct.
Yeah,
So,
that-
and it will continue to go up.
And I have
So-
the luxury, as you do, to enlarge my screen so I could see the numbers. Because they are rather
No
small.
wonder those cafeteria people are very tired.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, every day you go back there, your heart just goes out to them back there in our warehouse. Not to belabor the point, but by the time you take a breakfast and a lunch and you put, 7 to 10 items in every bag, and each one of those has to be handled by one person, and you're doing this number of meals, you can see how many times you're touching those bags, putting items in and doing things, not to mention the preparation for sandwiches and all those different things.
Yeah,
One
I
thing-
thought that was a typo, but I get it.
Yeah, it's quite an operation. They're getting it down to a science now. So, one of the I guess complaints or concerns with our summer feeding program is, while we're doing this large a volume, is that a lot of the meals are somewhat same day to day. I mean, different components, but you can only eat so many sandwiches, every day and those sorts of things. But they have roughly about 40 people scheduled, which is an increase for our summer feeding program for this coming summer. And so if they are able to maintain that, they are going to try to serve a hot entree on Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursday. So 3 out of the 5 days would have corn dog, hamburger, chicken nuggets, something of that, some kind of a warm. And then on Tuesday, they would do turkey or ham sandwich or something, and then on Friday we do a peanut butter sandwich. So breaking up the menu a little bit more, they'll see how that works as they go. And they got a little bit more efficient as they've been doing this now for quite some time. So that's kind of the plan going into the summer, and we are going to continue to do a breakfast and a lunch all the way through to the end. So that'll be a different summer feeding program than what we've had in past years.
It's pretty
Okay.
impressive, though, those people, when they got that gift card.
Yeah.
I thought that was amazing.
That was really
You know,
wonderful from,
I mean, they really appreciated that.
yes.
I thought, "Whew."
And, we wish we could do so much more, but yeah, thankful that we have good business partners in our community that was willing to do that. That was Idaho Central Credit
Yeah,
Union that
right.
made that donation, and I think it went a long way.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, next,
Just before you.
yes, go ahead.
The summer lunch feeding or breakfast lunch feeding, that's still covered by federal grant?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all that is under the summer feeding program, or our regular USDA school lunch program.
Are you
Mhm.
gonna do it in the same format, that they don't sit down and eat, they just grab it?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Yes, we're going to continue to do it the same way. We have the opportunity not to do it that way, but the state nutrition department is suggesting that we stay with the same guidelines, so it'll just be a drop-off. My understanding is that the park playground equipment is supposed to open back up sometime in June. I think that's mid-June when they're going to take off the snow fencing and allow the parks to open back up again. We are still going to just pick it up, and then we aren't going to monitor whether the kids go home or whether they stay in the park. Under the traditional feeding program, it's required that they stay on site, and we have to monitor that. But we're just going to hold the course through the rest of this summer, the way we've been doing it. So whether they come or go, we don't have to worry about that, but we'll continue to just they'll stop by, we'll pick them up, and say we need 2 meals, we need 5 meals for children under 18 years of age or under. Okay. Just in conjunction with that, we see our eligibility percentages here in April haven't changed much, 43.48%. Next item is Pocatello High School update, and last week I had an opportunity to share with Mr. Mattson kind of our camera system that we have out there at Pokey and show him some of the things that were going on there and how we can keep an eagle eye on that project. Not that we need to, but we have a very outstanding contractor. As of today, they have completed all of the utility requirements, meaning we have our sewer system connected, we have our fire sprinkler system connected, our main water line connected back to the system, and they've actually run the storm drain system from the palace out to the big hole that you see out there, kind of on that southeast side of the campus. And so we're there.
That hole won't
No.
stay there.
No.
Yeah, that's gonna be the new swim. No, I'm just kidding.
I know a lot of subdivisions that where they put, you know, I thought surely that's not.
We went, no, that will be, so they will put an infiltrator system in there, meaning that they'll pipe everything that comes off the storm drains from the roofing. So it'll be the roof from the new building, from the palace, which currently exists, and also from the walkway area. All three of those locations will come back in through that piping system into that hole that you see there. And it will have an infiltrator in there, meaning that it'll spread it out. That'll be all covered back up. There'll be lawn on top of it. Nobody will even know that it will there. And then it will self-percolate back into the ground. And, you know, that largely, if you've seen some of the rocks and the boulders that have come out of that, I mean, that ground really absorbs the water quite well. And so we should not have an issue with that. So once it's all put in place and buried up, it'll just be a regular lawn and you'd never know it's even there.
It's kind
So-
of like for a septic system, the drain field.
Similar to that, other than the septic part of it, yes.
Well, I said similar.
Yes, no, it's a
French
similar, very similar
French
concept,
drain.
very similar concept. And right now, you know where the big rock was, and between the rock and the pit, there was a dry well system there that took it from the palace. And so that actually got pulled out yesterday and dug out and put back, new fill put back in there and compacted. So there already was a dry well system and nobody really even knew it was there. But, so that one has been removed and the new one is being installed as we speak. So that's where we're at this point in time. I can anticipate that probably by Wednesday or at the latest Thursday of this week, they're gonna start digging the main foundation for the building. So that will start to happen. So it's working, and, you know, this isn't even June 1st. That's when the contract was supposed to start, so we've made all that progress up to this point in time, and hopefully we'll be either early or at least not late, starting in the 2022 school year to get things going. So, yeah. All right. Several bid items here for your consideration and approval this morning. First one is the bread bid. We had 4 different vendors who actually bid. Franz Bakery came in at $66,960. You can see that's significantly under the other ones, but they're also a local vendor, so that helps without having all the transportation costs. But we would recommend that the board would approve that contract to Franz Bakery. The next one is custodial supply bid. We had 8 vendors vendors that were awarded or will be awarded various product there under custodial supply bid of $120,457.90. Next one is fresh fruits and vegetables. We actually had 4 vendors who had received the low bid in the amount of $86,118.11 and would recommend that as well. Also, other food items for food service department, there are 7 vendors here, and for amount of $1,666,483.30. And I would just remind you of these amounts here are anticipated or estimated quantities that we would order throughout the school year, and they may go up or down depending upon the demand that we have for food service. Next one is our instructional supply bid. Again, this is various products that we have that we use in the classrooms throughout the school year. 4 vendors received the low bid on various products in the amount of $103,141.04. And then our milk bid, we really only have 1 vendor in this area, which is Medigold. They've been our supplying vendor for the past number of years. Their prices are very comparable to what we would find elsewhere, and so that would be in the amount of $496,708 for the 21 school year.
I did have a question on that,
Yes,
about paper cartons and plastic bottles.
yes.
What's the difference? I mean, you do use plastic bottles in one spot and paper product in
Mhm.
another, or?
One's round and the other one's kind of
Oh, yeah.
square. I'm just kidding. So, that's as we push for recycling and things of that nature, obviously I think most people probably like drinking out of plastic. It's a little bit smoother. It's not as rough as maybe the cardboard. We went actually to the milk bottle product. It's a little bit more expensive, believe it or not, to do the plastic as opposed to the cardboard carton. We did that probably 6 or 7 years ago, and there were some incentives, vendor incentives. That's how we got a scoreboard up at Franklin as an example from buying the plastic milk product. The challenge, however, is that to be a good consumer and to be a responsible partner, I guess, in the community, most people like you to recycle the plastic. And so we had a huge recycling program where the kids would basically, dump out any excess milk. We put them all in a bin. We would haul them to the recycle place. And after about a month of doing that, our recycle company here in town said, we can't do this anymore. We cannot stand the smell of rotten milk. And so we disbanded that use of those plastic bottles. It was quite it was quite a smelly process. So anyway, everything that we do for the most part, not exclusively, but for the most part, we do use the carton products. Yeah. All right. Probably more information you wanted to know on that. Did we do small wares or not? Not yet. Okay, so small wares, 3 vendors here listed, $16,309.61. Other food service supply items, we have 8 different vendors here. You can see the various locations of where they're located for $217,878.80. So we would recommend that all of these bids would be approved by the board when you get to that part in the agenda. One note here, just for future reference, we put out bids for a roofing project on 2 different schools about a month and a half ago or 2 months ago. We did not receive any bids on that. And so we are working on some new bids that we will bring to the board in June, at the June meeting, because we really have a couple roofs that really need some serious attention there. So I was hopeful that we might be able to get it for this meeting, but it looks like it's going to be June before we get that to you. And that should wrap up all the bids through the year for this next school year. Lastly, the wellness program and Viva Trust Fund. As you know, for the past, I think, 3 years, maybe 4 years, we have taken any unexpended funds that we have in our wellness program, and we have asked the board to authorize the moving of those funds to the Viva Trust Fund. If we do that this year and take the remaining funds, that will give us about 4.5 years of reserve in the Viva Trust Fund to use for medical insurance increases and to offset that cost there. So we would ask the board to approve that transfer of those funds from the wellness program into the Viva Trust Fund. And I think that concludes my items, unless you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Carl Smart, Employee Services.
All right, just 3 short items on my section of the agenda this morning. It's kind of weird saying this morning rather than this evening. But, of course, we always have an opportunity to share with you some of some of the things going on in our technology department and IC and that sort of thing. Just a couple of things I just need to mention for you. We got our IC sent out of here, and that had an impact on one of the reports that we thought we'd bring due, which was the ADA. And running the reports last week,
believe it or not, our highest ADA happened to be the month of April, which wasn't a surprise. We were needing to report average daily attendance in Infinite Campus. You know, we don't have the kids there on a weekly or a daily basis to sit at a desk. So we had to make this determination, how are we going to collect attendance for the week? And so if we found out that the kids were present and doing their homework, or they were at home, we counted them as being in attendance for that week. And so has been working like it was supposed to through Infinite Campus. And of course, we ran the reports last week for our ADA, and sure enough, those last few weeks of April showed we had the highest ADA. So we're not going to have to come to you as a board to do any adjustments on like item D down here for average daily attendance. And whether the state might take that data, we kind of heard grumblings from our state superintendent about how schools across the state are getting higher ADA now that they're not in school than they did before the breaks. And so I wouldn't be surprised to have them do some adjustments and say, after you were home, you're going to get the same ADA as you were prior to having home schools. And so we'll see. But the fact of the matter is we're doing okay with our ADA right now. And in way of technology, the big project they're going to have coming up, of course, is taking all those Chromebooks that we handed out a month ago and trying to get them all back and ready to give back to the students in the fall is on the one-to-one device initiative that we have. One challenge that they do have, of course, is the fact that, and we talked about this last week, the cutbacks that the governor has thrown at us because of shortfalls in revenue at the state level. You know, they had some plans to do some covers for these Chromebooks and that sort of thing. We might have to cut some of those plans back. And so just give them a device and hopefully they'll take care of it. But they will be doing it during the summer, getting your Chromebooks back. I hate to say this, but we do anticipate some loss. We handed out 7,000 Chromebooks. I'm hoping we get about 7,000 back, but you know, that's a pie in the sky sort of thing. So we will see how much loss we did have, and we will try to match up IDs with asset numbers and see who might still have assets in their homes that we can certainly contact them and see if we can get it back.
How are you going to collect these computers coming back?
They are going to be returned to the schools. There's already on our schedules, and it's been going to the parents, that this is the date you need to have your Chromebooks returned to school. I happened to stop at Idaho last night, and they have it out on their board. Library books returned such and such a day. I think it was last night, in fact. And Chromebooks, I think, is next Tuesday. Does that ring a bell?
Wednesday.
So parents are knowledgeable of this. They've been advertising it as they had conversations with their parents. So that'll be the big challenge for this next summer for our technology folks. Item B, budget discussion. We had this conversation on Friday about budget. I don't know if you had a chance to go home and study that over the weekend and come back with any questions. If not, what we can say is that Doug and I had this conversation earlier this morning. We're in a good place right now. The budget documents that we showed you on Friday does show a balanced budget. I'm very confident that the numbers we're using are accurate based upon our knowledge of what we received from the state last week. And so right now, I guess we just kind of wait for anything that might happen over the next couple of weeks. And one of those could be, of course, any changes that might come our way because of negotiations. And so,
You know, I did have a question with the negotiations. We have that contract with Randy. And so if we, I mean, he doesn't really need to come for this year, does he?
Go ahead, Carl. We talked about this morning as well.
We,
right with
you know,
us.
he does.
He does?
He does.
Okay.
And we are going to hold him to his contract, and he will be here to help out. And so Doug wanted me to call him today. I haven't had a chance to do that yet. And so I will be in contact with him to see when he can meet with us. And we meet over the phone, and we do this every year and have discussions about where we are financially, what do we see coming down the pike from the state, any changes, that sort of thing. So we do have this conversation with him every year to discuss those things that we would find of importance to discuss at negotiations. And so,
So we still
yep,
need his service.
Randy will still be in our service this year.
Okay.
Any other questions? That was a good question, by the way. And like I said last Friday, most of the time, those finance documents will put you to sleep quicker than a sleeping pill. So unless you have other questions, we will anticipate just over the next couple weeks working through negotiations and having a document, actually a week from this coming Friday, ready to go to the paper. And of course, there's a possibility we might not be done with negotiations by then, and so we do any changes that might come from that in budget adjustments later in next year. And so it's all taken care of eventually. In your packet is our wellness dashboard for the month of April. And you can see that we had a very good medical loss experience, 72.4%. One thing we have to realize is that about the middle of March, doctor's offices quit taking appointments for some things. And so this might be on the low side based upon the fact that people could not get into the doctor to have things done. And so I anticipate now that we're able to go back to the dentist and the doctor, we'll probably see some increases in the month of June to offset some of these low numbers we'll see probably in April and May. So, of course, you can see on there that we have, well, this is a new drug that I haven't noticed before. This one's called Trikafta. Looks like an expensive drug. So I did a little poking around to see what it was for. It's a cystic fibrosis medication. And so, but it is, you can see on there that it's a kind of a pricey drug. And so any of these name brand sort of things will probably pop up and then they disappear over time. And so that's the good news. But anyway, looking good for the month of April. So any other questions or thoughts about our dashboard? And on the last item is our instructional waivers, instructional hours waiver, sorry. There's a letter that we have prepared, and Dave, you've already signed it.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. And
It doesn't look like Dave's signature.
Whatever.
But we had, of course, 2 days of 2 days of snow days this last winter, and when things kind of headed south on us on March 17th, I'm recalling the date correctly. We had 4 days that week of spring break, which doesn't count against us. Then a week after spring break, so those are 9 days. And between the 9 days and the two snow days that we had early in the year, we fell below in some areas on our instructional hours. And that sheet with all the yellow lines in it, every one of those yellow lines is an area where we fell below our minimum instructional hours based upon state code. And generally it's going to be for the kindergarten classes and the 4 to 5 grades that were gonna fall below. Every secondary grade was okay. Every 1 to 3 grade was okay. So our kindergarten and our 4 to 5 is where we fell short. And so the letter that Dave signed is saying, you know, we fell short because of the situation we're in. We're not going to be able to make up those hours. There was no time, there was no way to add time to the school day or add to the school year. So, State of Idaho, will you please waive our minimum instructional hours for this year? I mean, that's really what we're asking for. And we're not the only ones in this boat. I think probably, I'm gonna imagine 99% of the districts around the state are gonna ask ask for the same waiver. So, this will be an action item for you this morning, and so we will ask you to approve this waiver, and once we get approval, we will fill out the little form that they have on the state's websites, submit it, and hopefully be done. I don't know when they are going to meet to discuss all these waivers. Have you heard anything?
I haven't.
In your discussions, but it has to come from the actual State Board of Education who will approve all these. It doesn't come from the Department of Education, it's the board. So we will submit that, and hopefully we won't hear anything more of it, and so that's our hope. So we will ask for your approval for us to send that today. Anything else you need to clarify with me today? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
I wasn't sure if I was going to be good morning or good afternoon. We're getting close, aren't we?
My fault.
So I just have a couple action items. The first one is regarding issuing contracts for professional certified employees for the 2021 school year. So in your packet is a resolution to issue contracts for professional certified employees for the 2020-2021 school year based on the current levels of compensation and contract days, with the understanding that when we go to negotiations that these may change, and the board will be asked to adopt the resolution as if read in the minutes under action items. And the second is, per board policy, the board annually delegates authority to the superintendent to hire through the summer months in an effort to avoid holding up the hiring process, as the board only meets once a month during the summer. And the responsibility was shifted to the superintendent starting May 20th until August 31st, at which time the authority will automatically revert back to you. The board will be asked to delegate the authority to the superintendent under the action items. Pretty simple? Okay, great.
I did have one question.
Okay, you bet.
I noticed in your human resource activity,
Mhm.
that really good band teacher, Franklin? Franklin had resigned or leaving or?
Really good band. Boy, we've had quite a few. I'm not quite sure.
It was a band teacher.
Yeah.
You mentioned that.
And I just saw
He was let
he
go,
was on the list of not coming back, and I just was feeling really bad because he was so good when I toured there, you know. And I just was wondering about that.
I'll double check the name and.
Yeah. Just why he was kind of leaving. It was kind of on the very top list. I have it. But
I'll double check and see if there's, and I can go back and look at his letter. Okay.
when Dave and I visited there, he was sure doing a good job. Anyway. That's a
Yeah,
great
I'm
job.
looking. I don't see a Franklin band here. Do you?
Then-
Orchestra. There's an orchestra?
Well, there'd be orchestra.
Yeah, okay.
Band orchestra.
Nathaniel Hooper, Orchestra, Franklin Middle School.
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
Yeah, anyway.
Okay.
Did a really great job.
So we could,
Unless it's different.
Well, we should- We should probably take this off-site.
Yeah.
Close to a personnel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, we can,
Yeah,
okay,
I just-
yeah, we can,
I was just wondering if it was the same band as orchestra, or I don't.
okay, and I know he was an orchestra, yeah,
Yeah, music.
okay.
Okay.
And then just on a kind of a side note for human resources, we're continuing our hiring process. We, through either Google interviews or those processes, we are doing great. We have 1 or 2 in the elementary world that are needing to hire, and 6 in middle school and 7 in high school. So it's just moving along just as if we're in the same position as we normally would be. So that's good news. Also, I think you maybe could see on the report, we have an enormous amount of student teachers. I was so shocked. I cannot believe how many student teachers for fall. So that's super exciting news. I mean, it's upwards of 30 when you include other universities. Usually that's a spring number. So I was pretty excited about that. So it's good news for our profession. Thank you.
Superintendent.
Board calendar for me, and as you can see, it's a little lean compared to other years at this time.
Are we meeting for the joint cities?
You know, I've not heard anything. In fact, I glanced over at Courtney to see if.
Okay.
Okay, all right. And then the one we don't have here are the graduation celebrations. I think we probably pulled those off from the Holt Arena commitment, but we'll get them back on there for you just so you can see it quick on your device, on your phone or email or, yeah. So we'll get those on, and just a reminder, May 28th, 6 PM will be New Horizon, and then the 29th will be 12, 3, and 6. And Mrs. Pettit shared all those places, but again, we'll get them on your calendar. Okay, and then that, I'm not sure about any local issues, or Judge Murray, if you're Zooming or Google Meeting or.
They just canceled the last one. Have you heard anything about Judge Murray?
I know that they're going to try in June, like they just postponed, I think I saw your guys' name on the email, so I didn't forward that to you, but they postponed the one in May and they are going to resume in June.
Okay, and then regular board meeting on the 16th of June, and we're scheduled for 5:30, but maybe subject to change depending on what the board's availability is and what circumstances we're in at that time. So we'll let you know. And then Renee has Father's Day on here for the 21st. And then Independence Day in July, so we'll see how it goes. And that's it for me, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Next on the agenda is public comment for items pertinent to the agenda. And I have not received anything, and I don't see any civilians. So, no, we'll go on to the action items. Let's see, the first one is maintain college entrance exam requirements for class of 2021 unless directed otherwise by the State of Education. Is there a motion, or do you want to discuss it first?
I move that we maintain the college entrance exam requirements for the class of 2021 unless otherwise directed.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carrying all in the positive. We'll move on to the next one. Approve Head Start COLA and Quality Improvement Grant applications for fiscal year 2020.
I move that the board approve the Head Start COLA and Quality Improvement Grant application for F year Y20 as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving forward, let's see, waive/suspend portions of board policy. I don't have that number in front of me, but
85.
yeah, there it is. Yep. Waive or suspend portions of board policy 8504.
I move that we waive or suspend portions of the board policy, and that's just for this year.
Correct.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 It's a little scary.
Yeah. They'll be in their cars. It'll be okay. It'll-
It's a more controlled environment, Jack.
Okay, next item is to approve summer camps as presented.
I move that we approve the summer camps as presented.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next item is the award the bids, and I don't have those bids in front of me here, but can I say reward all the bids presented?
I hereby move that the board award the below listed bids as amended. Bread, custodial, fruits and vegetables, food items, instructional milk, small wares and supplies.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moving forward, transfer remaining unexpended wellness program dollars to the VIBA Trust Fund. Is there a motion?
I move that we transfer those remaining unexpended wellness program dollars to the Viva Trust.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Hearing none opposed, let's see, approve the submission of instructional hours waiver request form to the State Department of Education.
I move that we approve, the board approve the submission of the instructional hours waiver request form to the State Department of Education as presented.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, I've already signed it, so.
Good thing.
I have a question about that. Oh, yeah.
Okay, next item is to adopt the resolution to issue contracts to the professional certificated employees for the 2020-2021 school year. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that board adopt resolution to issue contracts to professional certificated employees per the attachment list for the 2020-2021 school year as if read to the minutes.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Hope it works. And then the last item is to delegate authority to the superintendent to hire through the summer months effective May 20, 2020. Lots of 20s there.
I hereby move that the board delegate authority to the superintendent to hire through the summer months effective May 21st, May 20, 2020.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion is passed, and that's the end. Now, I think we are excused, so I'll adjourn this meeting.
I move we adjourn.
Okay, we're gonna need a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we are adjourned. And now we have an executive session.
Are we staying here for executive session?
Yes, uh-huh.
So.
Spacing, good spacing.
Yeah, right, we still got a green light.